recording. Okay, here we go. Three, two, one. What's going on, everybody? My name is Phil Freeman, and I am here with Andre Lumbistev, and we are going to be the judges for the Composer Challenge for the Indiana Jones theme. So, how you doing, Andre?
Hi, everyone.
Cool, cool. So, just to give you a little background as to why I'm here and why Venker is not. Venker is in the middle of running his business at the moment. He's running an online business and has a lot going on in that situation. So, Andre was kind enough to ask me to participate in this challenge as a judge, as a critic. And so, given that, I'm very honored and privileged to be able to do this with him and with all of you. And I look forward to giving feedback on all of the entries that were made for this composer challenge. I know that Andre and I actually wrote music as well for this challenge. And so, just to go over what the criteria are, we will be judging based on composition, which is the arrangement, the chord structure, the theory, and the music theory that was used for the pieces, the production quality as far as the sample libraries, the balance of the instrument in the mix, the interest. Does it build? As far as dynamics are concerned? Does it is it keeping our interest, or is it becoming repetitive? Is there some monotony to it that is there that it would you know um be better if it was more varied? So and then of course character. Does it fit the character of Indiana Jones or not? So we're going to be basing our critiques on that criteria. And I believe what Wenger had done in the past was marks out of 10. So that is what we are going to be doing today. So,
That's correct.
Andre, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope. Let's get started.
All right, cool. Awesome. So we can, we made entries into into this contest, into this challenge. So maybe just for the sake of fairness, it might be good if we save yours and mine till the end and get into the very first one, which is The Adventures of Fake Indiana Jones by
Okay.
Alex Kurlov. So with that said, what we are going to do, everybody, is we are going to do a playthrough of everybody's piece, just so that way we can make an accurate assessment and a fair assessment here.
That's
So,
true.
and everyone gets to listen to each other's pieces. So here we go. The Adventures of the Fake Indiana Jones. Okay, so that was The Adventures of Fake Indiana Jones by Alex Kurlov. And I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, which
I think it sounds like he since his last name, Russian last name, I can pronounce it
oh, there you go. Okay.
better. It's Kurilov,
Kurilev.
meaning
Okay, cool.
it's Kurilev.
Kurilev. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
yeah.
correcting me, Andre. My apologies.
Well, that's all right. Well,
Yeah.
it's okay. I mean, we're struggling with every last name and first name because we're all over the country. I mean, all over the world.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
what's so amazing about this group. So I guess since this is my first time doing this, before we get into it, I just want everyone to know that I'm just very happy to be able to provide feedback, and my goal is going to be to provide as much constructive feedback as possible here. I love making music. I'm very passionate about composing. And I've been doing it ever since I was a kid, but I've been really diving into these virtual sample libraries and virtual orchestration since November of 2017. So I've been at it very passionately, but it's still it's semi-professional, if anything. It's not anywhere near
right.
the yes.
But you had advantage. You have advantage. You have education, and some of the composers in the group, they don't. They learn as they go.
Fair
But
enough.
you have education now.
Yeah.
And also I want to add that we actually, even no matter how well we train, and it doesn't matter how well educated,
Mm-hmm.
it's still subjective. It's
True.
not that our
Exactly.
opinion doesn't mean that you have to be frustrated or upset about.
Right.
Sometimes we can be wrong. It's very
Absolutely.
subjective. Just take it
Precisely.
into consideration from that point.
That's exactly what I was about. Yeah, you finished my sentence for me. Thank you, Andre. That's
Yep.
yeah. Take what we're about to say with a grain of salt. We obviously do have just as much of a love and appreciation for what we do here as everyone else in this group. So the goal is to constructively critique and just know that it is subjective to the judges. So given that, Andre, do you want to start, or would you rather I go ahead and go first with this?
Sure, but it doesn't really matter. Do you want me to
Okay.
start? I will.
Go for it.
Okay. Alex, I have the composition. I gave him 9. Everything in the composition, since Alex know that time, and if longer you go, more challenging to keep a composition going and organize the composition in general. Overall, it's kind of strophic. It's meaning that it's like one part. There is no few different parts. Like it's not 2 parts. It's not 3 parts. It's like one strophic piece, only one part, and that's fine about this. But I would though still wanted to have this kind of development, even if it's one part. And ending of the piece, in my opinion, was a little unfinished. It was kind of sudden and just and went out. So I took 1 point off. It's 9 points from me for composition. The same thing for production. It's kind of even though his library sounds is fine, though a little bit narrow in the frequency. I would say slightly narrow. And combined with this narrowness, I also take 1 point off. But my interest, since it's a short piece that he had, even though it was not developed, I was kind of hoping that he will. So it kept my interest. I was listening. So I give him 10 for interest. And character, in my opinion, he did strike the characters as far as it's adventurous character, positive. So 10 is again. So I had 2 9s and 2 10s.
Cool. All right. Very good. So given that, as far as production value, I'm sorry, my apologies, composition rather. The first thing. I would also say a 9 out of 10. I feel that the switches, the key changes, and some of the counterpoint and the melody lines, and were very nicely put together. I really enjoyed it, where like the fact that there was variety to the keys. Now, I would say that the reason why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 rather than a 10 out of 10. And this also has to do with the interest of the piece. Towards the end, there was a repeating motif of eighth notes, and I would have liked to see it. Would have liked to have heard a little bit more variety there, maybe a couple of triplets, maybe like just a variation in pattern that piques the interest. So that's the reason why I'm giving the composition a 9 out of 10. It's just to add a little bit more
Spice.
spice to the ending. Very much in the same vein as what Andre had said, that it does end a little bit more quietly than some pieces in this genre do. So that is the reason for that. Production quality. This is something that I have been tinkering with and have had a lot of success and a lot of failure at. So, given that, I think it's the bane of every composer's existence to try to get the right frequency, and it can change day by day what sounds good to one's ears. So, given that, the thing that I would say and that I would stress to everyone in this challenge, what I've noticed from listening to it is the use of automation in your mixes. This has a lot to do with the composition, but it also has to do with the mix itself. So by what I mean by that is obviously working with the velocity and the modulation in your programming of the instruments. So I would say again a 9 out of 10, because there was some obvious usage of those dynamic markings, of that modulation inside of this piece, using the right key switches, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with that terminology. Something that I feel that all of us could improve upon is a significant and tactical use of our key switches and our automation within our mixes to make it sound more realistic, because the whole point of what we're doing here is to try to create as real of a sonic picture as possible given the tools that we have.
That's right.
So,
and production quality actually is talking about that realistic, and how do you deal with libraries, how to make it as more realistic as possible.
Which and
that's exactly right.
Right. And so with the limit, obviously there are limitations to the qualities of certain sound libraries. So I think that because of that, it definitely gets a 9 out of 10 from me. I just would have liked to seen a little bit more automation and just a couple more key switch uses and changes in articulation to create a little bit more realism, but that can be quite a struggle. Also considering the amount of memory that's being used by the computer, the ability of the computer itself, the controllers that you have, and the DAW that you're using. It's all dependent upon that. But yeah, so good production quality, 9 out of 10. Interest, I'm going to say an 8 out of 10 on this one, simply because it sort of lost some of the flair at the end. It's actually very relative to what I was talking about in the composition section, as far as the repeating eighth notes that were occurring in your parts. I would have liked to seen a little bit more interest there, and maybe a little bit more of a gusto ending to it. That's what I would have liked to see. So I'm going to be giving that an 8 out of 10. And then as far as the character, I believe that it definitely suits the mood for a positive heroic figure, whoever that might be, whether it's Indiana Jones or fake Indiana Jones. So, yeah, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give that a 9 out of 10, which is relative to everything else that I've said in this critique, is because if it would have had more of a heroic ending, I think that would have changed these marks to 10 out of 10s across the board, probably. So
sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Cool.
All right.
First critique down. First one down. Second one, we have.
Do you have it? Do you have it marked? So you have it saved, your markings?
Oh, I certainly can. So
you want to make sure you have it written. So because we're gonna give it to.
All right, so I'm going to do that right now. So 9 out of 10. 10, and then 10 out of 10. So there we go. All right, now moving on to Cosmozik. Cosmozik has his piece Indie. So
Yeah, it's his name is Florent Ainardi.
all right, Florent Donardi, we're gonna take a listen to your piece Indie, which is what well, that's what his friend. If you're familiar with the Indiana Jones movies, that's what his friend. Oh gosh, who it's what's his name? It's not Sean Connery's character. It's the other guy. I forget, but
Oh,
never mind. The one with the camels.
That's right. You got me off guard, man.
Yeah. So, oh man, it's been a while since I've watched those movies, but so much fun. All right, Cosmozik. We're going to listen to Indie right now. 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Here we go. Okay, so I can go first this time, Andre, if you like.
Sure.
Okay, so I have my markings here. I took some notes just to keep myself organized as I was listening to the piece. Given that, the first thing we'll go over is, of course, the composition. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10, simply for the reason that the thing that I was looking for in this piece that didn't occur very much were use of major and minor chords. There were a lot of parallel octaves and a lot of parallel fourths and fifths, and I felt that there was there was a lot of buildup. There's a lot of great parts inside of this theme. There's a lot of great themes that were being built, but it never resolved. And I feel like it felt like it just kept building and building, and it could have like resolved into something very, very grandiose. But that's the only reason that I'm giving 2 points down and giving it an 8 out of 10 is because though there were a lot of great elements within the piece, it just never had a chance to breathe or open up. So a lot of use of staccato, not very broad strokes of the palette, which I'd like to see. But other than that, there, like I said, lots of great elements that just, if there were some broader articulations that would put it all together very nicely. So production value 9 out of 10. I thought that the balance of the instruments were good. I thought that there was a warmth to the mix that was nice. I felt like it was a little thin in the arrangement of the mix, but I think that's simply because of the composition itself. If there were more instruments holding down the major and minor chords, and if there was more of a resolution, I think that would have added to the production value as well. So that's the reason why I'm giving that a 9 out of 10. Interest, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10, simply because of it cascades from the composition marking, because of again, just this build that keeps occurring and doesn't necessarily resolve. That's really the only reason for these markings. So, and then the character, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I think it is a positive piece for sure. It definitely captures Indy, and maybe it's simply because maybe this is a scene where Indiana Jones is like trying to figure something out, and he just can't. Like he's just not finding an answer, because Hans Zimmer said this in his masterclass, that compositions are always a question and an answer, and the ebb and flow between that. So do you ask a bunch of questions in a row, and then do you get an answer, or do you keep asking questions? So if maybe it's because I'm so used to, and why I just find endings and conclusions so satisfying. If this were put in a context where Indiana Jones was questioning something, or if he was just like just trying to figure something out and doing the same, doing a whole bunch of different things but getting the same result, that might be a really, really good use of this piece for a scene in that film. But as far as like a main character theme, I would have just seen a little bit more resolution. So that's those are my overall markings for the piece. So Andre?
Okay.
Sir.
All right. So composition, I gave him 7. In my opinion, it's too repetitive and slow development. The production, I gave him 9. Florent, actually, over time, since some of the composers I've been listening a lot, I can tell that he's actually getting better. But this is when you said it's kind of a sound thing, and I can tell you that it's coming. Yeah, I totally agree with you that the lower end was, and most likely it's coming from orchestration in general, because orchestration on itself is a knowledge that we all must gain in order to understand the concept of how do frequency works, what instruments are actually good with each other, how do you how many instruments do you place, and the sound libraries that we have, we kind of if we don't know much about orchestration, and I'm still myself learning for that matter, but if we don't know what we wanted to achieve, piano, forte, fortissima, and what instruments we need to add to the mix, it could be a problem. In his case, it's truly a thing, and actually and I even wrote in my note that frequency spectrum is not full. Therefore, we're missing some of the groupings of the instruments in the orchestra probably would be added perfectly. And I'm thinking right now, I didn't make a note here, but most likely it's a lower end that I'm referring to.
Okay.
And also in this low section, the in the transition, the transition themselves, they were not satisfactory for me. I would have kind of would make it sound a little bit unrealistic in transition, particularly. That's as far as production. Interest, I gave him 8. It's hard to keep interest with the slow development, and it's basically kind of composition affecting interest. So since development was slow, I'm listening and waiting. Okay, are we gonna move in that development further? And I was a little bit hoping that it would go and develop more and faster. As far as character, I give him 9. It's very subjective in a sense, and I'm thinking that's what would be fair. Score 9 from me.
Cool.
That's it.
All right, moving on. So, and I'm actually going to close these as I go. All right, Indiana Jones by, and maybe you can help me with this, Andre, as
he's from Greece. His name's probably Stellianos Samelis. Yes, probably.
Stellianos Samelis. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So 3 minutes and 46 seconds. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into this. Here we go. you want to go first on this one?
Sure. Okay. Actually, I like composition quite well, but there are a couple things that kind of I have to take down the points that, unfortunately for Stellianos, the main theme of the first part, if he would just simply end where he's fading out to the middle section, it would be superb. But there you go. The transitions between main part of the heroic part, where he's the adventure part, and then to lyric part, and this transition is not realistic, and actually not developed. In reality, it has to be kind of flawlessly moving from one part to another. Currently, it's like two different pieces, and he fading out from part one to the part two, and so this is diminishes the composition as it is. And the same thing when he's coming back out of the soft part back to kind of return to the main theme. It's still not convincing. It's better than the change in moving from part one to part two. The main theme, leitmotif, he has kind of two leitmotifs. One is the main, the adventures, which is great, and he returned to this with some flair, which is great. But those transitions really diminishes the whole beauty of this piece. I took 1 point off for composition. And since they are unrealistic in the sense, therefore production is also, I have to take this out of the production as well. It's not just composition, it's production, because it sounded realistic. So both productions and composition, 9 points. But interest, it kept my interest throughout the entire piece. I was listening and excited to hear what's the arrangement of the piece is quite interesting. The movements of the instrument, I give him 10. In character, the adventurous part, he got me. I got it. So slow, the lyric part, it's somewhat a question, but I'll kind of, it's a lyric part. He obviously has some women in the movie. And again, this is when we are talking about the character, obviously this is what a lot of times, and some composers arguing about this, we call it leitmotif, when we wanted to have the character associated with the music. So in that case, actually middle part could be dropped off completely. I'm still keeping 10 points for him, though I should have taken 1 point off, but I like it very much. Both parts, cool. The adventurous and lyric part, I like the parts themselves, so I keep cool. This.
Cool. All right. So
that's it.
Awesome. And I think maybe for the next piece, I don't know if you feel that this would be cool, Andre. Maybe we go back and forth, not, based on like all 4 categories, but we just like, hit each category.
Go by categories.
And go back and
sure,
forth.
Sure.
Just,
why not?
Just to keep the conversation going. But yeah, those are all very good notes, Andre. I actually have very similar markings. But I wanted to talk about the reason why I marked the composition 9 out of 10 and the production 8 out of 10, because they're related. One thing that I noticed, especially at the beginning, was that there were some things in the background. Some I don't know what if it was a string pad or whether they were woodwinds, but there were minor chords on top of a major chord. It sounded like you were doing.
I heard it.
G minor and a G major at the same time, and though I understand the reason why you would want to do that to get an experimental sound, to get a uniqueness out of that, it unfortunately clashed. And it was a momentary thing that took away from what I feel was a really well done piece. And the thing that would have made the composition 10 out of 10 for me and the production 10 out of 10 are the proper use of the articulations when you're doing the programming. I feel like where marcato and sustain should have been used, staccato was used, and vice versa. So there's like at the end, the staccato's too abrupt. At the beginning, I feel like there should have been more staccato in order to sharpen the notes. So I don't know what type of sample library you're using and the limitations of those sample libraries. But if it gives you the ability to key switch between, staccato or staccatissimo and sustain, I would use those in your automation in order to improve the quality of not just of the composition but of the production itself. I really feel that if the production was as far as the arrangement of the key switches and the automation were concerned, would make this composition a 10 out of 10 and the production quality a 10 out of 10. I feel like what Andre was saying about the transitions and the character would actually be benefited by just a little bit more focus on the programming side of things. I don't know if you agree with that, Andre.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, and then as far as interest is concerned, I did give this a 10 out of 10 because it definitely, there were a lot of moving parts to it. And I feel that there were, again, the production was, though the production was like distracting me from it, there were parts in the melody that moved in such a way that definitely kept my interest. And I feel that the use of the dynamics were very, very good. And I feel that dynamics definitely play a huge role in creating interest for a piece. There's a movement to it, a lot like waves in the ocean. There's a rhythm to it that's underlying underneath the piece. It's a second form of rhythm that's more subtle. Dynamics that is concerned. So as far as character, I am also going to mark this a 9 out of 10, simply because of the again, is it a theme for Indiana Jones? I'm not sure. Could this be used in a scene for Indiana Jones? Absolutely. I think it would be a great piece for him if he was like going through town in Raiders of the Lost Ark in the middle of the desert, and with his woman, and he's in like different types of situations. I really loved the way that this ended too. There was a nice majestic ending,
Right.
which was really, really nice. So I do think that it definitely captured the character well. But just because of the nature of this piece being a theme for Indiana Jones, the character, is the reason why I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10. So hopefully that's somewhat comprehensive. But thank you for your entry, Janos Samelis.
Yes, as a composer work, he actually worked really. I like as a composer.
Yeah.
The progressions, the movements, it's really very nice composition. It could, very nice composing work, but orchestration itself and make it as the whole piece, it requires a little bit more work. It would be superb, actually could be superb if improving those parts that we were talking about.
I honestly think that if I think we're on the same page as far as that's concerned, Andre, for sure. Like
right.
If this were printed on, on sheet music and were given to an orchestra, a real life orchestra, I think that we would be saying something completely different.
Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So moving on. Thank you, Stylianos Samelis, for your entry. As well as everyone else that has participated in this so far. Now we will move on to Allo, A-L-O, Allo. Do we know?
It's Albert Lowe.
Okay, Albert Lowe. Cool, very good. Yeah. I like the Captain America profile picture right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. All right. So we've got a 4-minute theme here.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's very hard to keep the interest. We'll see how it works.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a listen. So, let's start. Oh, that's somebody else's.
Yeah.
That's Alex's Kurilov's communication, which is the 30-second composer challenge that's currently going on right
Ah,
now.
yeah, I
So,
see. I see.
yeah, it's on automatic play here.
Right.
So yeah, my apologies about that. Okay, so so I'll go first as far as the composition, and then Andre will take the floor for that category. So, the composition, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 because there are some really, really nice melodies inside of there. There's a lot of great transitions that are occurring, but a few of the transitions were just a little bit awkward. It almost felt like it was fading out one song and then fading another one in. So I would have liked to see like a little bit more glue in between the certain places. The thing I did like about it though was that I feel like there was a use of jazz chords in this that isn't usually found in other pieces. So just kind of as an example, like what I was hearing was like you would hear the F major chord, and then you would do like a C major with an added sixth in there, which I thought was really interesting. So that was cool. But it was the reason why it's an 8 out of 10 is exclusively because of the transitions. That's the reason. That's the only reason why. It's just that those transitions just it needs some work. And would otherwise be a 10 out of 10 because of that, because of the other interest that was built. As far as production value, oh, I'm sorry. Andre, go
Okay.
ahead. You
It's
was
all
gonna
right.
say anything else. My apologies. Go ahead.
Actually, I have also 8, and I actually transitions is one thing, but I see the repetitiveness in the without any development.
Mm,
That's
that is
the
true. It's
bum
more
para
repetitive.
bum 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 para bum. It's important that this is actually clearly he's using this leitmotif, which is great, good uh, point that you have it, but I always search for development of the idea. You need to be more, go extra mile, make more development, create a little bit more, work on this, and as a result, in transition, of course, as you mentioned, also added to this. As a result, I have 8 out of 10.
Cool. All right. So moving on to production. Just because I'm a stickler for proper programming. That's and automation. I am gonna say give this a 7 out of 10, simply because the horns in the beginning. I feel like the French horn that was used, the dynamic markings and also the articulation was did not fit what was being played. I feel as if the right articulation was programmed, that part would have had much more interest and would have been much more defined. I feel like that there was some issues with the articulations that were used. So again, I think that the production value on a lot of these pieces that we've been listening to would be improved simply by adding the articulations. So I don't know, like, and that's of course the thing that has to be also kept in mind is also the limitations of certain sample libraries. However, there's a really, really, really great service, and I'm sure that you're familiar with this, Andre, because I think we both are subscribed to it, which is the East West Composer Cloud. Which is only $30 a month, and you have access to a whole gamut of different instruments. And I use East West in my compositions on a regular basis. Also a great recommendation for Sonascore, the orchestra. That is also an excellent um, sample library at a reasonable price, and it doesn't take up a lot of memory on your computer either. So I would just say that in general for everyone, that if you're struggling with like the production value of your piece, I would look into studying automation, getting used to automation control in your DAW, and also looking at what your sample libraries have to offer, and getting familiar with the articulations that you have in your palette, and knowing when to use which one. So that's what I would say. And that is the reason why I'm giving it the production value of 7 out of 10 is because that I feel that there's some improvement that can certainly be made with the articulation programming.
Okay, my production score is higher. My production score is 9, but I actually, my comment is dynamics and balance. That's what I'm taking this point off.
Cool.
Essentially, we even talk about the same thing because the balance is, as you start talking about like French horn was at the beginning, I referred to the balance and dynamics in general. So in some points, when he had to have crescendo, it's not dynamically strong enough. At the same time, at the very beginning, that French horn is like boom, louder than it should be. So thinking through all these dynamics and the balance of your within of dynamics is that's what I felt like missing, and I took 1 point off.
Okay. Okay. So I think, I certainly agree with you. Like, as far like if you look at it from that perspective, I definitely would say the same thing. 9 out of 10. I guess it's just that we're judging the production value differently.
Well, you got everything's fine. It's so the difference between our score doesn't mean anything. I mean, it shouldn't be really taken to
True.
like, well, you're talking about the same, but you taken importance is for all of us is importance of some of the things is, for example, for you it's more important than, for example, for me or for him. You have to judge the way you feel, so you don't have to be really apologizing for taking more points.
Fair enough.
Yep.
That's So I just want Albert to know that that's that those markings are just simply based on articulation. What Andre is saying is very, very, very valid as far as the dynamics and the reasons
Mhm.
the reasons why he's giving you a 9 out of 10. I would also agree. Cool. All right. Sorry. You did you have any more to say on that?
No, I'm done.
All right,
Going to interest.
Cool. Interest. 9 out of 10 because there were some very really, really nice themes within the music. I felt like there was some development, even though there was some repetition. I feel that it was built pretty well. The transitions, I just feel like there could have been a little bit more glue to the transitions. I did like the dynamics at the end, the build at the end. It was nice. So yeah, I would say a 9 out of 10. And the reason for the marking is just a little bit more glue in the transitions and maybe just a little less repetition. That's all.
Well, my marking here is actually lower. I have to 8 out of 10, and this is what important to me. Again, interest is based on if you if you listen with interest, and repetitiveness that I mentioned at the very beginning about composition is not adding up to the interest. Of course, it take my interest off if I hear the repetitiveness without any development. It's important for me to have that kind of development, and clearly he stated the leitmotif, which is great. I'm all for leitmotif to make sure the theme is there. That's what related to the character. But once you keep repeating this over and over again without any development, it's to me it's no brainer. Okay, I'm not interested to continue listening over and over the same thing. So I took 2 points off.
Okay. And then as far as the character is concerned, I am giving this a 9 out of 10. Because again, this would be a really, like, all of these parts, all of these 4 minutes have great context if it was a part of a scene in the film. I think that there's a lot of great things that could occur there. And I'll tell you what, the reason why this is not any lower is because I feel like there was a very strong leitmotif that was written. And so given that, I think that's what makes this the character strong here. And the only reason why I would dock 1 point here is because it feels more like it would be a scene in the film rather than developing the actual character itself. So
I got it. I give him 10 because the main theme idea of it, it actually has the character in it, and therefore he didn't develop it, of course. Therefore, I took the points in composition and everything else, but he got in my opinion, he got this character in that particular leitmotif he didn't develop, but the character was there, therefore I keep 10 for him.
Cool. All right.
All right.
So, Albert, thank you for your entry. Good, sir. And
absolutely.
Well done.
Absolutely. By the way, I wanted to add one thing.
What's up?
Albert is being, I heard he participated for quite a while already. And I can actually tell that he developed quite initial composition when he first started. First of all, he didn't have a good libraries period. And overall work was very, very, just like a beginner, or orchestrating and stuff. He didn't do, he didn't know much and he actually expressed that I'm just starting this. It's
right.
I've never done it before. And he has a quite great development so far. Please keep it up, man.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. It's clearly you're on the right track. You're doing a very good job.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why Andre and I, agreed to do this is, and why I'm loving this so much is because I'm getting so much out of this group as far as like improving my compositions and the production quality of it, and getting feedback from other.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's a wonderful thing, and it's super, super awesome to see. That people are improving and developing and taking the administrators' critiques to heart and working to improve themselves. And that's the whole point of this.
Agree. Absolutely agree with you.
And for those of you who don't know, Andre and I, we actually teach at the same school, Keystone Musical Arts Center. So this is what we do all day long when it comes to our respective instruments. So it's
that's right.
We love to help people, and we love to provide criticism that may be strong, but it's also meant to be constructive always.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So sweet. We've got that one in the can. All right. Adventure theme, Indiana Jones, composer challenge by Matt A. I don't know your last name, sir, but that's
actually his first name is Guy, and Guy Matthew.
Guy. Okay, gotcha. So he goes by Matt A on SoundCloud.
Right.
Cool. So we got a 1 minute and 57-second theme here. Let's take a listen. first.
Sure.
Cool.
All right. I actually enjoy this piece very much. The only thing, as far as composition, I actually have to take 1 point off. In my opinion, the main thing that is bum 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 bum. It's the structure like it appears in 3 times with the bridges in between. And in my opinion, that all 3 times that it appears, it's sounding the same. There are some difference maybe, but when I'm listening to it, I don't hear much of the difference. So it would be, in my opinion, if you wanted to keep it the same, it would happen only twice, not 3 times. So the structure of composition is that the point off, the only reason. That's all. That's my everything else. I just no doubt it's very, very good work.
I also marked it a 9 out of 10 for that same general reason, which is just repetitiveness of the main theme. However, the development of it in the third time that it appears, I think, was very well done. I think that there's here. Yeah, and we'll get when we get into production, I'll get a chance to talk about this. But I think that the dynamics, the use of the chords, very well constructed as far as the orchestration and the use of transitions. Fantastic transitions. It's just,
well, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's just a matter of the repetition of the main theme, and I think what Andre said. And this is something I struggle with too, where it's trying to find a way to do the theme again, but add some variety to it. Maybe add like a suspended chord to something, or to even change the instrument that does the main theme as well, or have like a trade-off, like a question and answer type of thing, or even a key change. So that's what I would say about the composition. But other than that, very, very well done.
Right. And to be precise, I wanted to tell to say if there'll be 2 times the same part, you don't even have to change it. It's not necessary if you have kind of a break in between and you return to the same part and you have the same kind of, and then you have ending a little bit different. And it would be just superb and fine. I wouldn't argue at all. But there are 3 times. The same part appearing 3 times, and if you have 2 out of 3, very similar, and the third a little bit different. That's, in my opinion, thinking through that composition would be 10 out of 10 if it would be something different.
Right.
Obviously. Moving to production.
Let's move to production. Yes.
Okay, production. I give him 10 out of 10. Flawless, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say I also gave him a 10 out of 10. And the reason why, this is a perfect example of someone who knows how to use their articulations, program their articulations and automation properly. I think the balance
balance is great.
Fantastic.
I agree.
I really think that there's a really great use of the sections. I think it was just a phenomenal production value.
In general, all this stereo spread, I mean, the spread of orchestra, everything, I'm listening to this and like, okay, well, this guy knows how to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's really good, well done, very well done.
It's excellent. So, cool. Interest, I would say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andre. It's your turn.
Yeah, I give him 9. I'll give him 9 out of 10. And again, that's only, we gotten back. When you repeat the same, and when he repeated twice, it was the same. I thought, okay, and I look at the wave, I can tell that the ending is a little bit different because it's slightly louder, maybe, just a little bit. But then he get back to this, like, oh, well, this is not good. That's, again, you kind of composition and interest go together sometimes. Just like nothing I can do about this. So I have to take points off because I was listening, and I kind of, well, it's diminishing my interest to the piece. 9 out of 10.
I don't think there's anything I need to add to that. Yeah, you said it very well, Andre. 9 out of 10, simply for the repetition. All right, character.
10 out of 10. Absolutely, I like it. Very good, very good. If it would be just, he could get rid of that middle part, repetitive part, and have this connect the two other bridges together, for example, and straight to somehow. If you wouldn't miss that 1/3 part, it would be superb. I would give him 10 out of 10 for everything. But that was like the character, in my opinion, was there. I'm fine. 10 out of 10 from me.
Cool. All right, there we go. Guy, thank you very much for your entry. And now, for the end of the show, your judges are going to judge each other's pieces. So,
I know.
Yeah.
That stinks.
Here we go. So here we have Andre Lumbistev, Indiana Jones. We're going to take it from the beginning here and take a listen. So. Andre, so somebody else. Sorry, JV Soundworks, don't sue us. It's on automatic play. All right. So Andre, first and foremost, as far as the composition is concerned, I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. As far as the written piece is concerned, I think that it's I really like the transitions from, C major into E flat. There's you run the gamut of keys. I think that the motif is good as well. I think that if a real orchestra were to do this, I think it would fit right in there with any Indiana Jones movie that comes out in the future. So yeah, I would say 10 out of 10 on the composition. I'm gonna give the production a 9 out of 10. Here's the reasons why it would be a 10 out of 10. The reasons why it would be 10 out of 10. The balance is perfect. As far as the ensemble instruments are concerned, as far as the placement of everything, I think it's really, really good. As far as the frequencies are concerned, they're very warm. They're very well done. The only reason why I'm bringing down 1 point is because of the volume of the French horn and the volume of the trumpet. I feel that they are very, like, when the violins are playing the theme and the trumpet comes in, it's just a little too loud for my taste. And I feel that it could be brought back a little bit with just a little bit of reverb and just bringing it down and letting it sit in the mix. I understand probably the reason why you wanted to do that was because since those instruments are playing the theme, you wanted to make sure that they were up at front and center. But I just think it took away from what was otherwise a perfect balance of everything else. So that's the only reason why I marked that as a 9 out of 10. As far as interest is concerned, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. It's a great build. I think that it keeps the motif without being too repetitive. Really, really good stuff, and you captured the character perfectly, in my opinion. 10 out of 10. So,
The funny thing, I got the same numbers for you, man.
nice.
I got the same
Nice.
numbers for you. I have the
Cool.
composition 10. It's well,
Okay.
we're gonna listen to this first.
All right. Yeah. So, I didn't know if you wanted to listen to it or not. Like, you know.
All right.
Fun. Cool. So we're gonna play mine here for a second. So here we go.
Excellent. Hey, I have a question for you, and it depends on the question, on your answer. Depends on your answer. Your production may change. Number may change.
Okay.
I have a question for you. Now, I have a note
Yeah.
here about that production. Everything
Okay.
10 except production.
Cool.
And if your answer is, I hear something in your answer, your production will go up as well. Here's the question. Could you please describe to me in your loudest part when you have the full orchestra, have that all the tutti and everything goes loud and the most crescendo part.
So like the
How
part
do
right
you?
at the end. Yeah.
What's it's not only at the end. You have some of the parts within. You get louder, have a little bit more crescendo, then soften down. But when you have the full orchestra, all this, what's your pairing about the? How do you, pairing of the instruments? What instrument are you pairing for the lower, middle range and high end? What
Okay.
kind of instrument you connect pairing together? And second, your spread of the chords. How do you spread low chords in particular?
Okay. So the way that I spread my lower chords, I always make sure that I do octaves and make sure that they're spread out. Sometimes if I do fifths in the low parts, it can sound really muddy if I add the fifth to the chord, and it just doesn't sit well. So I'm usually doing octaves with the basses and the tubas. Sometimes I'll add a contrabass contrabassoon just to add a little bit more to the bass tone. When we get into the cellos, it's like as I go up in the registers, things become a little bit more clustered. Sometimes I will just to balance out what's going on with the trombones and the French horns, I will do a lot of stuff where the trombones and the French horns are playing the same thing, so that way it's balanced within the mix. So that way you have a left and a right. Same thing with the violins and the trumpets. And then of course, you know, the woodwinds sit in the middle. And I know that like when we were doing this and when I was working on this piece, you actually gave me quite a bit of feedback about the balance, and I figured out a few ways to do it within my DAW to be able to pan each instrument section to its proper place. So that's how I pair, and that's how I visualize the pairing of things, and also kind of like a spectrum of what happens as you go lower. The notes become more spread out. As you go higher, you have more room for clustering.
Hmm.
and pairing of instruments. So
Okay, cool. Well, you got 10 out of 10 for everything.
yeah,
Hey,
I appreciate it. Thank
I
you.
actually I gonna send you one of the things. Basically, I was struggling to. I know that once we talk about this, and I posted as a comment that I hate to lower your score on production, and your improvements were obviously great. You worked
Thank
on
you.
this fantastic. I
And
still
actually,
think what's that?
before you and I'll let you finish your thought. I'm sorry. One thing that I do want to do, and I want to make sure that I post in the group, is one thing that really helped was a use of a couple of compressors, like a couple of plugins that are actually free to download. So I'm
Hmm.
going to place that in the group after we're done here of what those compressors are and where you can find them because they're
That's
completely
wonderful.
free. So
Wonderful.
yeah. So anyway, and because that those at least the OTT compressor, the multi-dynamic OTT compressor, which is a
Mm-hmm.
completely free plugin that I have in my mix chain, that makes such a difference, such a
Oh,
huge difference in production. It really
for
does.
how many frequencies they separated by?
Honestly, it's such an easy setup. It's
Well,
so
no, I understand that easy, but how many
yeah.
frequencies it separated? Four?
Low, mid, high. It's a three band
Okay.
multi-band compressor.
Hmm.
It's got upper compression and lower compression. It's
Got
also has
got you.
it has
Got you.
saturation involved with it. So yeah, it's a free plugin, but it does wonders for a
Yeah,
mix. It's really cool.
I have I'm using this myself. Only I have four bands
Cool.
frequency separation.
Awesome.
Fantastic stuff. Absolutely agree with you. They need to be used for sure.
Yes.
Now, uh, here's what this is the comment, but I will actually
Yeah.
send you and probably post it in the group as well. The orchestration itself, not just sound libraries, but choosing the and grouping the instruments can be huge key in in solving the sounding problem that we experience. Anytime I try to make the big sound, I realize myself that it sounds overwhelming, and the clash of the frequencies, it's like I'm trying to do all the fancy stuff with compressors, there's the way with the EQs and everything,
Yeah.
and I still cannot get rid of this. And then I've used one of the videos, training videos for orchestration, and I realize I make mistake in some of the grouping of the instruments, and also I overwhelm some of the notes with the clashes of number of instruments that together they
Gotcha.
make this overwhelming sound. And that's what I heard in this particular piece. It's you already fix everything. It's everything great. Your balance, your orchestra placement, the frequency is so great. But I still think like little bit, little bit something's still not right. And I'm gonna
Okay.
send you that. Well, you will see that video,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking that will actually looking at this from this perspective also help.
Cool. Awesome.
And
And thank you for saying that. So it's probably more accurate as a 9.5 than rather than a 10. But
no,
yeah, no, it's
it's
great
great. It's
though.
great. Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
and I appreciate the constructive critique, Andre, for sure, because I've been constantly, with everything that's going on with the elephant in the room, what's keeping us at home busy
Hmm.
writing music all this time has really given me a chance to hone in uh, uh, on mixes and try to get the best out of the frequencies as well as orchestration. I do notice that with some of my pieces, this was the last time that I had messed with this piece was a couple of weeks ago. So I had not since updated the mix. Um,
Hmm.
given that since that time, I've been really, just continually improving, continually being with other. That's another thing that really helps too. Everybody is if you're not doing this already, that you definitely should do this. If and when you're going to mix your piece, you want to compare it to other pieces that sound similar, or maybe that are in the same key or have the same orchestration. Also, and that, I'm really looking forward to what you're going to be sending me here, Andre, because that I think that would be very helpful for not just me, but everybody else in the group as far as
Absolutely.
the pairing of the instruments, because that is something I run into quite a bit, because I want
Oh
everything
yeah.
to be so
Oh yeah.
loud and obnoxious and in your face, very Hans Zimmer, Wagnerian
Right.
type of stuff. So,
Well,
you know,
but
which can
even
sometimes
if
take
it's
away.
right, even if it's not, fortissimo, even in the soft spots, I realize that make mistakes by actually choosing the orchestration of the instruments for the accompaniment and melody parts. Sometimes I can hear when it's right or wrong, and I could not figure out what's wrong. And now, when looking at this, I realize that this is what I need to dig more. Orchestration, as far as instrumentation, how you need to work on this and thinking what's go with what and how. Gotcha. It's really good, and it's free course. Well, you can buy extensive course, but it's free. Cool. I'll send it to you. It's on YouTube. I found it, discovered it, and I mean I posted it for everyone, of course.
Sweet.
So, all righty. Well.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up for today. So yeah, just to kind of go over everything. Thank you to all of the participants for this composer challenge. It was an honor to be your interim judge and critic here, and I hope that you found enjoyment in watching this with myself and Andre. This was a lot of fun, Andre. How about it?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone. Well,
thank you, everybody. We'll see you for the next one, I guess. I think that either it'll be Venker and Andre or someone else that.
Well, whoever it's gonna be, we cannot really. Whoever it's gonna be, I don't know.
Well, I'm sorry. What was that?
I said I don't know who it will be. Well, whoever it will be, we'll just wait for it.
Yeah, we'll just wait for it. Sounds like a plan. So, Andre, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording this. Have a good one, everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe.
Absolutely. And, all right. See you, everyone.
Yes. Take care, everybody. Thank you.